Good morning, YouTube. This is Colby with Mechanics. Today we're looking at a 2001 Mercedes S500. We're going to be changing the valve cover gaskets. This car has got 3 pretty bad oil leaks. Let's go ahead and get the plastic removed off the top of the engine and go ahead and get started. Alright, first thing we're going to do is go ahead and get this plastic out of the way. These intakes just slide right out. Go ahead and pop those off. This plastic cover will come right out as well. It's just got some little snaps on it. And the air filters here are actually on snaps as well. There's these rubber grommets. Pop the front one up, then you pop the back one up, and that comes right off of there. Four clips, and that just seats there on the intake. Once you have that off, you can go ahead and have a good view of your valve cover gaskets. Okay, I've already degreased this engine quite a bit, but as you can see here, there was a real bad oil leak up in this area. There's actually a cover on top of the valve cover that has a seal as well that we may have to address. We had an oil leak up front. We had a pretty bad oil leak right over here in this area, and we had also an oil leak back here, which also has another cover on top of the valve cover that has a seal that we're going to address as well. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and remove my wiring from my ignition coils. There was one zip tie here. Once you get those unhooked, you can go ahead and lay those towards the center somehow so they stay out of the way. Unhook the 4 on this side. There was a zip tie on the back one there as well. Go ahead and hook those somewhere where they stay out of the way. I'm just going to tuck them in the middle for now, and now we'll go on to the next step. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and get my ignition coils out of the way and off the valve cover. I got a T27 Torx here. Go ahead and break those loose and remove these all 8 coils. Go ahead and take the hardware out of each one, and I'm going to go ahead and just lay those down on the side there, not even unhook them, just get them out of the way so we can get the valve cover off. Okay, I went ahead and tucked my ignition coils down here along the side so I can get to the bolts on the valve cover. What I did next is we're going to go ahead and I took the 10mm out of this transmission dipstick here off that fitting there. I'm just going to slide that down so it's out of the way. I'm going to pop this rubber breather hose off here, and then we are going to grab our E10, which is the female star, and go ahead and remove this guy right here that's holding the oil dipstick in place. Once he's out and you got that pushed away there, you just have these E10s all the way around the valve cover. Go ahead and remove all those, and then we should be lifting the valve cover off. Alright guys, I removed all of those E10s from around the valve cover. Just to note, these 2 up here are, these 2 right here are long ones. They go through this top cover all the way down. The rest are the same length. I just put a little screwdriver under the corner here, actually right over here, gave it a little pry, and that popped loose. Then go ahead and carefully lift off your valve cover. I have to slide your oil dipstick and your trainee dipstick a little bit to make clearance. Okay, we got the cover off. Doesn't look the greatest, and we're going to go from here. Alright, I got the valve cover off. I got it laid on the bench here. I went ahead and used my T25 Torx, took these 2 screws out here, got a screwdriver under the lip of this and popped this cover off. These were leaking too. This, from what I understand, you have to use silicone on, so I'm going to get a wire wheel out in my compressed air, and I'm going to clean all this old silicone off of here. Clean up these edges real well, clean out. I'm going to completely degrease these valve covers and go ahead and re-silicone this here and get that back in place after everything's clean. and then we'll put the new valve cover gaskets on as well. Alright guys, over here on the driver's side, I noticed these two lines here. This one was really brittle, so what I attempted to do was I attempted to remove this small top cover first. I took the 4 E10 bolts out, and then 3 of the T25 stars out, and I was able to get the back one off without it breaking. However, this one right here actually broke off when I tried to get it off. It was so brittle. So I'm going to have to find a fix for that. I'm thinking I might just cut it back here and try to use another section of hose to connect that. So that's what I did. I also sprayed a little WD-40, tried to get it inside of there on both of these to loosen them up, to slide them off. I'm going to go ahead and take this part off and now go ahead and remove the valve cover itself. Okay, I went to my local advanced auto parts store and picked up the valve cover gasket. I also picked up a tube of RTV silicone, and I got 4 cans of brake cleaner. I've already cleaned the passenger side valve cover here with 2 cans of brake cleaner. I got all the surface areas clean, ready for the gasket and the silicone. I'm going to go ahead and clean this guy next, and then we'll go ahead and seal up these top covers and put them back on. Okay, I went ahead and cleaned my valve covers. I used my wire wheel with some compressed air and cleaned all the surfaces that I'm going to be putting the RTV on. Cleaned this off as well with the wheel. I also used a small pick and scraped out what was left of the RTV. Also, I wheeled the other side, cleaned out the track here. I'm going to wipe that down one more time, make sure that's all dry. Then we're going to go ahead and do this on the other side as well, and then go ahead and seal this and put these back on. Alright, I have, as you can see here, I have RTV'd that whole track. I also made sure when I was cleaning out, I cleaned out these little holes real well, and I put some RTV on there too. I got the whole track sealed. I'm going to go ahead and put this in place and get these 2 bolts in. Okay. Now, this is the passenger side. I think on the driver's side I'm going to put the valve cover on first and then put that top cover on after the valve cover's in place, being so that's the way I took it off, and I may have to fight those lines once I'm putting it back on. Okay, I went ahead and used a roll of paper towels and cleaned my surface area real well all the way around. It's kind of time consuming getting past all the spark plugs, but take your time and get that real clean. I also went ahead and set my gasket in place. I put daubs of silicone in the corners, both sides of the gasket, on this half moon here, and on the half moon down on this end. Both sides of the gasket, put little daubs of RTV. Once that's done, make sure this is pressed down all the way around. There's little indentations on that grab. Go ahead and put that in place. Alright, I put that valve cover back on, tighten down all the bolts. When you tighten the valve cover bolts, go evenly and crisscross pattern until everything's tight. Do not over tighten them. They're aluminum hardware going into an aluminum head. I then put my 4 T27 bolts back in the coils, tighten those down, put the 10mm back on the transmission dipstick. Make sure you put the oil dipstick under that before you tighten that one down. And we're going to take our wiring and go ahead and put that back on, and that side's done. Also, don't forget about this breather hose here. I went ahead and put that back in place. This side is basically done. We're going to jump over to the other side and get that side knocked out as well. Okay, over here on the driver's side, I went ahead and just put the valve cover on first. I got all the bolts tightened down. I left this top cover off. I'm going to go ahead and seal that now, and the reason being so I can sneak these hoses in a little easier that were difficult to get out. I'm going to go ahead and silicone that trim there and go ahead and stick that in place now that my valve cover is in the correct position and tightened down. Alright, like I said before, I got the valve cover in place. I went ahead and siliconed all the edges on this part here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slide this into this hose first, and then lay that into place. Keep in mind my other hose was broken, if you recall. Okay, got that in place. Just going to go ahead and thread a few screws in there to keep that steady. Go ahead and put the other 4 long bolts in there. And then we will address this broken hose issue. Alright, we got it all buttoned back up here. For this broken piece, I took a piece, I believe it was 5/8, and connected it on there, cut that end clean, and put a hose clamp on this side. This side was real snug. And in the back, on this clamp, I just went ahead and put a hose clamp on there. The hose actually cracked just a hair when I was taking it off. So I just put some clamps on there, that way we don't have any air leaking out. Snug down my ignition coils, hook the wiring up. All you got left is to snap your plastics back in place, and you're all set. I'm going to let this sit for a couple hours so that RTV can set, and then I'll go ahead and start it up and check for leaks. Thanks for watching. I hope I was able to help, and I'll see you next time.